And we're rolling.
Alrighty. Oh,
All right.
and so,
Yeah.
just for...
Is that going to be enough?
Clap.
Oh.
Yeah, we did it. All
Yay.
right,
G'day, Dougie. G'day, listeners.
cool. Listeners.
Yeah, well, I mean...
Are we getting too far ahead of ourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, let's... G'day, Mum and Dad. How you
Yeah,
going?
that's it. My parents won't watch this.
They won't.
No, yeah.
At all.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't watch this.
Well, come on. They're proud of you, Dougie.
Mum might watch this, but like she gets enough of hearing me on the phone anyway. So
Yeah. So does that mean we need to sort of tone it back a little bit? We need to...
it's probably better that it's me on here and not my mum.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, we're here. This is the first episode. We're gonna, of this thing that we're gonna call a tune, a flick, a chat.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So, I think it kind of says what it's going to be on the tin, right? Like that's...
Yeah. I mean, you keep it pretty simple by doing it. Like, we could have made some elaborate markety sounding name, but...
Yeah. You don't reckon that is?
Why fucking bother?
You don't reckon that's pretty, marketing?
No, but you could have tried to roll all three of those words into one word.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
right,
And
yeah,
really
like
try
Brangelina or...
Yeah. Tried to like really condense that shit down. For,
I mean, that really aged me right there. Like Brangelina as a...
Yeah, I mean, but haven't they come back around though?
No, I think you're thinking of Ben Affleck and J-Lo.
Right. Yeah. Fair enough.
Batfleck. No, that's Batfleck.
Yeah. Well, we know. All right, straight away, we already know where where your interests lie.
And it's not J-Lo.
Yeah.
No, it is. It definitely is.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, did you bring a tune?
Yeah.
What have you been checking out this week?
The Armed have my album of the year. It's
already.
Yeah, right. I've already decided.
Halfway through the
you'd have to do pretty good to beat that.
All right. And all right, so tell me why nothing could possibly beat that this year.
Somehow, so the album's called Ultra Pop, and somehow they've managed to take everything that I love about a band like Converge that has crazy drums and just really, what's the way of putting it? It's just this wall of noise. There's no better way of putting it. Like Kurt Bailu from God City, everything that he produces just has this like undeniable noise to it.
Yeah.
But then they've made what are in like the single Average Death is essentially a indie pop song. But it's got these crazy drums.
I have a feeling that's the song of theirs from this album that I played on The Faction.
It definitely would have been. Yeah, it was a single. I think it came out in about March. And holy man, the video clip's pretty crazy as well. It's got the bright indie sort of colors, but then some really weird, like people dressed up in like abstract looking, like almost brightly colored horror kind of vibes. And it's very strange. But I'm learning drums at the moment, and
I mean, best of luck.
The guy who drums on this album, he has drummed for Converge before, and this song has got this sort of like poppy, like melodies and sheen to it, but like just this chaos going on in the background. Yeah, and dude, it's album of the year.
Album of the year.
Yep.
I mean, is that like, and what? Nothing else has even touched this.
Look,
come on.
I'm not going to say it can't be topped.
Okay.
But right now, it is the thing I've been looking for about the last sort of 18 months. Their last album, actually, Only Love, was amazing as well. But this is somehow, I think this is almost like a...
Is this filling a Dillinger Escape Plan sized hole in your life?
Dude,
is that what's going on?
I have a huge Dillinger Escape Plan size hole. And it really is. It's not the same band by any stretch, but it is just so interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to match up genre-wise, but like, if it hits the same spots, then it's
it gives me stank face.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
There's a fantastic photo of me watching a band called Wither at Big Sound 2019.
Right.
And I have the biggest stank face on. I was right up against the stack, and I was deaf in my right ear the day after.
Right.
Yeah, because I was on the stage left side of looking at the stage. Right at the stack of speakers. Jasper was mixing. Our good friend Jasper Webb was mixing that night.
Yeah.
They're a very dense band. So
if that was the last thing you ever heard, it would have sounded great though.
Yeah, exactly. Very dense band. It was at Crowbar upstairs, at Crowbar Black.
Right.
At the time. And yeah, biggest stank face I've ever pulled. Very heavy band.
Yeah.
Very. And just anger personified.
Because so often when you're stuck in a really crap spot at a gig, when you're being pummeled by sound, if it's somewhere where you're that close to a speaker, it's usually something not worth it. You know what I mean? Because
I don't know. I really chose to, and I was sober too, I might add.
Yeah.
I did that big sound sober.
Yeah.
So I really chose to be there and that close to that show.
Definitely. But I've had shows where I've ended up being pushed to the side by the pit,
right,
waiting for the next band.
Yep.
And so you're watching a band and the mix might be bad, or you might just be too close to the speaker, or whatever it is, and the whole time you're going, if this is the last thing I hear, going to be really disappointed.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's only a handful of mixing engineers out there that can take something like that and make you be grateful.
In a space like that.
In a space like that and make you be grateful for losing your hearing.
Yeah. Jasper's one of them.
Yeah.
I mean, my song this week is probably no prizes for guessing, is the new Sleep Token. And I put a disclaimer on this, not just because I'm their publicist for Australia. I have been a fan.
Because it's really good.
Oh, because it's really, really, really good. But also, I'll put a caveat on this, is that I've actually been a fan of this band for a number of years now.
Yeah.
And I've fought very, very hard to get the contract to do PR for this band because I love them so much.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah, agreed. And I've been following them, I think, since about 2017.
Right.
Or so. And yeah, the last 4 years I've just been clamoring to try and work with them.
Yeah.
They were signed to a record label over in the UK where they're from, called Basic Records, so with a K on the end.
Yeah, I know Basic.
Record. Yeah, and I was chatting with them at the time, and every time I'd get a response from them, I'd be like, "Oh my god, it's happening!" And then I'd respond, and then they would just never respond again, and I'd be like, "What?" And then it just that never happened, and then they signed to Spine Farm,
right?
Which is part of was Caroline Music Australia group, but is now the Virgin Music Australia group.
Right.
And I was doing stuff for that group of labels anyway, and I was like, my God, they're in your roster.
The planets have aligned.
The planets have aligned. Can I work this? And so I did their last album as well. I did Sundowning.
Yeah.
And then, so I've just picked up doing this one again. And, so that's the disclaimer out of the way. I'm working on this.
I can tell you're doing a good job of it, because when you showed me Sleep Token 18 months ago, I think, you showed me Sleep Token and you were talking it up before you showed me. And then I listened to it and I'm like, this is really good. But I'm like, you know who would really love this? My friend Brady would really love this. And I went and I sent him a link to it, and he said, I showed you this band 6 months ago.
Hey.
And he goes, and I showed it to you and I said, this is awesome. You need to check it out. And I gave it a bit of a go, but I wasn't in the headspace. But he wasn't a PR legend.
Yeah. So that's the thing. And let's just take a little quick detour away from this, from necessarily about music or this type of the music that we're talking about. Are you the kind of person... So this is... I just heard you say, Brady told you about this song or the band, and you were like, yeah, cool, man. And didn't really then dive into it any deeper.
Yeah.
But then it came around again, and eventually you checked it out, and then you kind of figured, oh, okay, yes, this is good, right?
It was the thing too, where at the time I was like, I heard it and it piqued my interest, but it hadn't been sold.
Yep.
To me.
Okay.
So it was, I'll get there. Whereas if there'd been a bit more urgency I'm going to pin you down and show you this.
So are you the kind of person that you're the person in your friend group bringing new music to show them, to show your like circle of friends?
I'm pretty bad.
And then when someone brings something to you, you're like, nope, I didn't find it. Like, I'm not going to get into that.
No. The kind of person I am is, and I've always kind of been like this, I rely on having a great circle of friends that are out there finding new music. And that's usually how I find my new music. Very rarely am I, not that I don't go looking for it, but when I find something I do like, I get pretty obsessed with it and I kind of get the blinders on for a little bit.
Right.
And so that's why I've been trying to train myself over the last few years to be like, stay
open a little.
Yeah, it's not that I find myself listening to the same old stuff all the time, but more often than not, like if there's something that you show me, you know, like that you show me, and I'm like, I'm going to take notice. I've got another friend, Joel, who was the guy that was always 6 months ahead of me. He always had the thing that I was going to really like 6 months from now. And so he'd show me and I'd go, oh, okay, yeah, I kind of get it, yeah. And then in 6 months' time, I'm like, Joel, how good is this thing that you showed me? It's the best. He goes, I've moved on.
I'm over that.
Yeah. So I am led.
Okay. I'm the kind of guy, and I don't know if this is problematic or not, but
this is the first episode. You can't.
No.
We can't afford to get cancelled at the get-go, mate.
I just mean like as soon as something gets like too big or too many people are into it, I'm off it. So if you start telling me, and I'll give you the example, right? And it's not necessarily music; it's TV shows. Game of Thrones, no interest,
right?
None. Because everyone's telling me, "Man, are you watching it? Are you into it?" I'm like, I couldn't give a shit.
Yep.
Because it's too many people were into it by then. I'm like,
some things you have to find yourself.
Yeah.
Because like the way I started watching Game of Thrones was I had run out of things to watch at the time when I still had stuff on hard drives and stuff. And I had the first 2 seasons of Game of Thrones on my hard drive that my friend had given me.
You're like, I just need new content.
I'm like, I just need something. And the missus was like, why don't we just chuck an episode of that on? I'm like, because I was like, to me, that was like listening to pop music. I was like, everyone's talking about this thing.
Yeah.
And you get like 2 episodes in and you're like, more. Y'all got any more of that Game of Thrones? And they did. There was 45 seasons out, so we just about like killed ourselves watching Game of Thrones.
Right. Yeah. You just didn't bathe. You just stayed up all hours.
There was like people knocking on the doors, like health checking.
Hey, turn it down.
Yeah.
Okay, back to Sleep Token, I guess.
Yes,
that was just a quick detour.
No, it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. My stories are like that. But yeah, I mean, the whole mystery around like who Vessel is, the singer, and the mask and all of that sort of stuff. Was it you that I was chatting to the other day? Didn't like realize the guy was anonymous. No one knew who he was. Or was that someone else I was chatting to?
I think that's part of. See, when you first introduced me to Sleep Token, the thing that got it for me was all of the background about it. You were gushing about like how interesting the whole thing is.
Yeah.
And then by the time I started listening to the music, I was already primed for something interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And like, unfortunately, there's sort of enough out there at the moment. Like there's been some people that have been a bit like crappy about it, and they've some people just like wanted to out who the person was, and there's articles out there online, but like the one thing that really heartens me about the like heavy music community, or at least the people that are around Sleep Token, are that now in those groups that went so hard on trying to find out who Vessel was, now some of them have found out. Now they're going really hard to like keep the secret.
Right.
And to like clip the wings of people who try to out who it is, because they're like, no, the band has very purposely done this for us.
Yeah.
We don't want the fun to be ruined.
No one really wants to see Kiss without the makeup.
I mean, it shows in their record sales of the albums where they took the makeup off.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's really heartening to see where people are like, yeah, okay, we've kind of solved the mystery here, but let's keep it for the band. Let's get behind the band and make sure that, you know, this mystery gets perpetuated. And I was just like, oh, it's so good. That's so heartening to see, finally.
It's telling now as well, with the way that everything is so accessible and anything you want to know you can find on the internet, that in the last few years there's been movies and TV shows and stuff like that where there has been this change in everyone going, it's so easy to get something spoiled for you that now that there's these like fan campaigns of like, do not spoil stuff. Like, because it went from telling your friends to you open up like Google News and they'll be in the headline
the spoiler
for the thing, and then usually like the people who wrote those articles get a big backlash from people. So
totally. So here's the thing for you then. What do you think is the acceptable amount of time before you start talking about spoilers online, and does it vary from project to project? So like in the media, like, so for instance, like let's go with the latest Marvel show, right? Loki has just come out. I've seen media talk about that about 2 days after the episode. They're like, we give you a 48-hour grace period, then we're going to start talking about it because like we want clicks on our website. And it's like, let's talk about the new, is 48 hours enough?
I don't think. I think,
especially because it drops midweek now, not a Friday.
With a TV show, I think it's different to a movie. Definitely. So there's that. But like, I'd say probably a week, because when the new episode's about to come out, I think then would be the good time to start like.
It's like almost like a recap.
Yeah, recapping and going over it then. But it's a hard one to do when you're on a weekly release schedule and everything. Like you say, people want clicks.
Well, the news cycle of that sort of stuff is on. It's only going to be relevant
between news and between friends
fandom
as well. Like, and Reddit and things like that.
So do you think amongst your friends and whatever, is it just like good etiquette to just be like, hey, have you seen it?
100%.
Before you get into something, or do you just launch into it and assume?
I had friends that stopped watching Game of Thrones at season 5, I believe, because the books weren't out for the rest of it.
Is there 3 seasons that are based off, not off books?
I believe it's 3.
I thought it was just the last season.
I think it's 6, 7, and 8.
Oh wow!
All without
posts.
Books.
Yeah.
So they're
what an interesting spot to be in now, where that guy can now write the ending of that story differently.
And he has said in interviews and stuff too that he's like, well, I gave them the outline of what it was going to be, but like there's things that he wouldn't have done, and he can
take it in a whole other direction if he wants to.
They did things with storylines that were totally different, but so I got 2 friends that went, no, we're not going to watch any more Game of Thrones because now that it's caught up with the books, we don't want to have the books kind of spoiled for us with key moments and stuff.
Yeah.
Season 5 of Game of Thrones was like 5 years ago now. And so if anyone brings up any sort of Game of Thrones, story or joke or anything like that with them around at a party, it's eventually worked its way around that you just don't talk about Game of Thrones full stop in front of those people anymore because you forget how much has come and gone and what they have and haven't seen. And so more often than not, if someone says, oh yeah, something Game of Thrones, they'll go, ah.
So being that we're sort of talking about movies, TV, all that sort of stuff, what have you been watching this week? What's your flick?
Not this week, but it is on the cards to watch it again.
Okay.
Extraction with Chris Hemsworth.
Oh, damn.
Have you seen that?
Yeah, I have, yeah.
Man, I watched that 3 times the first week that it came out.
Right.
Because I was so...
That you were contributing almost solely to it being like number 1 on Netflix that week then.
Yeah, it was all me.
It smashed it.
It did really well.
Yeah,
It's
I
basically...
It was number 1 worldwide, actually.
It did really well, man.
Yeah,
and so it should have. Like it was so the stunt coordinator...
I didn't expect it to be that good.
No, me neither.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I was just like, saw the trailer and I went, oh, Chris Hemsworth speaking in basically a normal Australian accent. Wasn't really turned up. It was just, whatever.
It was just him.
It was just him. Yeah. And just playing, army dude, SAS or whatever it
Yeah.
was. But the thing that got me about it was that it was him with a normal accent, which you don't see in Hollywood very often.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was I could see that there was going to be like lots of cool action sequences and
Yeah.
stuff. And I knew that he's the kind of guy in his career at the moment, he's not going to take something any less than like John Wick standard.
Yeah, okay.
And he shouldn't have to.
Yeah.
And that's what I got out of it. That movie was John Wick in a war zone.
Yeah.
As opposed to John Wick in a mob
Urban
run
setting.
Yeah, urban setting.
So here's a question for you. Just going back onto the spoiler chat that we had just then,
Mm-hmm.
how much do we reveal of this movie? Because they're making a sequel to that film.
Yeah. So
So-
movies, I think, is 6 months.
So, okay, well, it's definitely been that.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Unless there's like
know,
a huge twist.
Well, I mean, there's going to be a sequel made to this movie, but without giving anything away, this movie has to be a prequel.
Yeah, it does have
The
to be
second
a
one has
prequel.
to be a prequel, right?
Well, I mean, I've seen crazier
because
things
he
happen.
is cast in it. So it has to be a prequel.
Yeah, but... Yeah,
I mean, do we want to get into it? Do we want to spoil it? Do we want to...
I think it's been long enough.
Okay. Look, did he die?
What's
your take? Did he die?
I think he did die.
Yeah, same.
But there's definitely nothing against them bringing him back with someone found him. I mean, James Bond does that crap all the time,
True.
right? Where it's like you
True.
see James Bond get shot basically through the heart and fall off a bridge,
Yeah.
then there's a title sequence, and then there he is drinking at some bar, and you're like, oh, okay, he didn't die.
Yeah, true.
And yeah, I think really like the
For real,
suspense.
though, like this is meant to be a little more. Oh, actually, no, he jumped off that big cliff and sits on the bottom of the water there at the start of the movie, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like
Yeah.
that. But I think when it comes down to it, like whatever they do with the sequel,
Yeah.
like I think the way they wrapped that up was great because they didn't know whether they're going to get a sequel.
Yeah.
It's got Chris Hemsworth in it, but
Yeah, they'd be shooting for it to be a vehicle for him.
yeah, exactly.
But if they didn't get one, they wrapped it up nicely anyway.
exactly,
Yeah.
it's that thing of like, imagine if there were never any other Die Hard movies. I personally would be
Yeah, would
happy,
have been
with,
happy
Die
with Die
Hard.
Hard 1, yeah.
It's not like cliffhanger, or it's not just like, oh, next summer, blah 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 blah. Like it was never set up like that.
Here's a bit of trivia about Die Hard that you may or may not know. So the story of Die Hard is actually based on a book
Yep.
that's not called Die Hard.
When you said you may or may not know, now I'm interested to see what you think I don't know about Die Hard.
Yeah, for real. Okay, yeah, here we go. Or maybe it's for the listeners, Doug. Maybe it's for mum and dad. They definitely won't know.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
And the movie rights to that book came up a couple of times in like as early as like the 70s.
Right.
And Frank Sinatra was actually cast as... You do know this?
Yeah, I do.
My man Doug knows it. That's
Because
good.
it was
Yeah.
a movie about a guy in like his the book was about a
Yeah.
guy in his 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like Sinatra was approaching like his 70s or something at this
Yeah.
point. Like, and I think maybe he was cast. They were like, they were writing the script. They were doing the whole thing. They put it off for him to go do something else. I think he even came back a second time. They were like, let's do it. Never got off the ground. Movie rights for it were reverting. Someone came in, did a script rewrite, and then like it became... And certainly Willis was not the first choice at all.
Yeah.
Like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, just about everyone had a run at this
Bruce
character.
Willis was
He's just doing moonlighting.
Chris Pratt is the new Bruce Willis. He's a lot more
Hold
like
up.
Harrison Ford,
That's a big call.
right? But Chris Pratt was
Yeah.
just some goofy guy in a TV sitcom, essentially.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Right?
Yeah, there
and
is
then
more parallels than I
someone
thought.
went, there's a bit of potential in that guy. We could maybe bump him into this.
tighten him
and
up a
bump
little
in.
bit?
Yeah. Well, let's just put him out in the
Give him a
wild
better
and see
haircut.
what he can do. And Bruce Willis was the same. They nearly didn't sell that movie because he was the star of it.
He wasn't on the poster.
He wasn't on the poster because
it was just the tower on fire,
because
right?
they were worried people would think it was going to be like Spy Hard or wasn't at
Like
the
a
time
satire
like
sort of.
Airplane or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's that. But so bringing it back to Extraction.
Yes.
And John Wick as well, and Denzel Washington had like Equalizer.
Man,
you know,
these Equalizer flicks. They're so cheesy, but they're so good.
Revenge movies are like coming back, but everyone's very quick now, you know, because they're money hungry, but also because they understand the fandom behind these things. Put out an action movie knowing that it might get a sequel, and if it doesn't do well, no harm, no foul.
Yeah,
but. It used to be back in the day, Die Hard came out and then, that went really well. And then it was like 6 or 7 years or something before they did the next one.
Die Hard was 88.
Yeah. Die Hard 2 was, I think it was closer to 93. So maybe 5 years. Yeah. But it was never...
97 with a Vengeance?
Believe so, yeah.
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 Yeah, like you're looking way more at like a 2-year turnaround now for these kind of movies. Like,
they know that once it's out, they know exactly where it's going, what's going to happen with it, and then they're ready to make the next one. And that's why John Wick, I think, really delivered. Was they put it out, it was not like a crazy hit.
I mean, the fact we're at John Wick 4, within this amount of time is pretty.
And also, that's how you end up with a star that doesn't outgrow the role.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you leave it too long, you end up with Die Hard 5.
Oof. That is a terrible, terrible film.
Yeah.
The example that I always come back to, but I mean, on the other hand, it also did its job, was the very last James Bond film that Roger Moore did was View to a Kill.
Yeah.
And Rog is about 65. Rog is definitely wearing a hairpiece.
Yeah.
The stuntmen in all of the action scenes are very, very obvious that it's not Roger Moore. Just the believability of Roger Moore making out with, you know, the Stacey Sutton and, you know, what's her name? Grace Jones.
Yeah.
Just like, oh man, it just didn't fly at all.
The CGI and all of the face replacement technology in the world couldn't disguise that Robert De Niro is like in his 80s in The Irishman. But
I've not seen that.
But so there is a scene in that movie. It's in the trailer as well, I think, and everyone's talked about it. It's not a spoiler. There's a scene in that movie where he's got a guy on the street and he's kicking the crap out of him, and it's set when he should be in about his mid to late 30s.
Yep.
And so he's got the mid to late 30s face replacement on, but it's very clearly like a guy in his 70s, maybe 80s, however old Robert De Niro is now, just like and kicking this guy, and they could have they face replaced it. They could have just got a younger dude, any person with the physicality to sell, you know, casino style kicking the crap out of someone.
So I mean, that's actually probably a good little segue into the flick that I'm going to bring up, which is early 2000s entire CGI film, which I was really surprised to find was directed by Robert Zemeckis. Who's ordinarily a great director. And had done a completely CGI film before that in it was like the Polar Express or something like that.
Was that before?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was before. So the movie I'm talking about is Beowulf. Which I've read up since I watched this film. And I didn't even watch the whole thing. I read up on it. It's based on like a folk story from England and the Nordic, and you know, Scotland, England, and the Nordic sort of, you know, top northwestern area of like Scandinavia and all of that. It's, you know, sort of based on, you know, a folk tale and through all of that. And so to give this context, I was in the pub in Tully. On Saturday night just gone, and we're eating a pub meal, and Seven Mate is on, and the AFL was on the TV to begin with. It gets, AFL finishes, we're still eating and having a drink. We got in a bit late, right? It's like 8 o'clock, and Beowulf kicks off on Seven Mate. Yeah. and we're eating, and one of the guys at the table goes, What is this at 8 o'clock? This is not child friendly. What is,
right.
What is going on? And like, there's this weird looking slack-jawed monster thing. It's like 8 foot tall. It's got no pants on. His like jaws like hanging off to the side. He's like, looks like this big inbred like hillbilly monster thing.
Yeah.
And he's coming in. He's just like killing everyone. Cut to like Anthony Hopkins is in this film. Yeah, as the king. Man, this film, it's got Angelina Jolie in it. It's got John Malkovich, Anthony Hopkins, Robin Wright Penn. Like, just a stellar cast.
But it's all CGI, right?
All CGI.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you who plays Beowulf himself.
Right.
But in fact, he looks like Fred Durst, but I know it's not Fred Durst.
I hope it's Fred Durst.
It's not. But the thing is, he wears this like band on his head, and his hairline sits like that. So he looks like he's wearing a backward cap as well.
Right.
Without the brim at the back.
But so is he supposed to be like a werewolf in that he's a dude
he's
that
not
turns
a wolf
into
at all.
a...
No, he's not a werewolf at all.
Is it just
That's
a dude?
just his name, man.
Oh, it's just a dude, right?
He's just a warrior.
Right.
He's just this like
I was betrayed
legendary
by
warrior.
the wolf in the name.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yep.
Anyway, so he comes along. This village has been pillaged by this weird monster that's called the Grendel.
I've heard of that.
Exactly. So that's where this is from. And they're looking for a champion to take on this Grendel.
Right.
And
Hugh Grinspoon's Do You Want to Be a Champion in the background. That's his montage song.
But no, so there's one bit. So this is where we really got into the main part of the story. Was there's one bit like he's like, yeah, I'll take up your cause, no worries. Anyway, there's some shady thing going on with the king, but he's like, the people asking him, why aren't you taking care of this? He goes, oh, I'll find a champion to defeat this thing that's like terrorizing us, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Beowulf comes along. He's like, yeah, okay, I'll live in your village and with you for a little while, and I'll figure out how to kill this thing. Anyway, there's a scene where he basically goes and like strips down to nothing, and he's like having a bath in there, like hot springs kind of thing.
Right.
He's lying on the edge of the pool, like naked, and the Grendel attacks. Do you reckon Beowulf put his clothes on?
Wow.
Beowulf fights this thing naked as the day is born. All the while, every shot is like there's something obscuring his junk.
Nice.
And I was like, man, in 2000 and whatever, when this was made, the CGI is just so poor. Why would you make this harder by having to just always have something in shot that was like obscuring his junk, right? I was just like, this just...
Also, where is the need from the point of the, like,
there's zero.
Is that like part of the legend? That he can fight with his...
It kind of has to be. It must be. I've read the Wikipedia about the original thing because this movie is cooked, man. The story in this thing is cooked. Anyway, so and when I say like he's battling this dude naked, I mean he's also battling it with no weapons. So he's like jumping on the back.
He's got the hammer out though.
So he's jumping on the back of this thing, like, so his butt is out, and I was like, what is going on? And like eventually he kind of wounds the thing, and it goes to run back out the door. Beowulf grabs his arm, like slams the door on enough time, and like rips the thing's arm off, and it runs off and dies in the
at 8:30 on a Saturday night in the pub in Tully.
Yes,
yeah,
and he's there like, I am your champion, standing there naked. I'm your champion. He's got the arm of this like 8-foot mutant, like, oh, I am the champion. And eventually they're like, oh, well, let's go make sure this thing's dead. So he goes out in search of it, and he finds this witch, which is Angelina Jolie.
Yeah.
And like, without spoiling too much, like, instead of killing...
I mean, I'm not running out to watch this.
No, don't.
I don't feel like anyone else is.
Doug, I beg of you, Doug, don't watch this film. And he goes to see her, and like, the implication is that he kills this the witch. He kills Angelina Jolie, right?
Right.
But what you find out later on is that like the king, when he's sort of like he's been real cagey about it and whatever, turns out like the king had slept with the witch and this Grendel thing was his son.
Right.
And then there's something to do with like a golden horn.
Did you watch this whole movie?
Yeah, it's a wild ride, man.
At the pub?
Yeah, well, we went back and we watched it in our in our rooms.
Because I was going to say, like, that's even more like I've watched parts of things at pubs before where it's just on in the background. Like I'm there with people who are watching the footy, and I'm like, no, I'm going to watch this. And
the
with
fight
no
scene
sound,
where he's naked goes for about 15 minutes. I'm not lying. Anyway, so as it turns out, there's a scene later on where it's like 70 years later, and now he's the king. Now Beowulf's the king.
Right.
He's like cheating on his missus. He's like open mouth kissing this like super young woman. I was just like, what is this film? This is bizarre. Anyway, turns out now there's like a dragon coming to terrorize that village. Guess whose son that is?
Oh.
The cycle just repeats.
Right. So that's the legend then.
He didn't kill the witch. He banged the witch. But it's something like...
Because of the implication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cycle just repeats. Do not watch this film, Doug.
See, the thing that puzzles me about movies like that is you go, did these actors that are pretty high level actors and these directors and all these people that were involved in this, is this a money laundering thing? I've been watching a lot of Ozark, and I look at something that either goes on for too long or that is, badly made, or is a thing like, why was this ever made? Always makes you wonder, like, was this a way to just like burn some cash for some reason for tax purposes?
Yeah. I mean, I would say at the time the technology would have been cutting edge.
Yeah.
So those level of actors were probably lured in on the promise that this was going to be a cutting edge type film. It's based on a game as well.
Right.
There's a game that came before it. But yeah, I beg of you, Doug, don't watch it.
I'll stick to Witcher, I think. I think The Witcher sounds like the better version of that style of thing, that sort of like vaguely Nordic, witchy fantasy.
Yeah, totally.
Because everything you explained to me sounds like it's something that you'd kind of see in The Witcher, except just really bad.
Yeah. Oh, man, it is wild. It is a wild, wild flick.
Oh, man.
And then I guess that brings us to our like third segment as well, as like a chat.
Yeah.
So like to give context, like all good podcasts and their, origin story is that, this whole thing came up from the, us sitting around having some beers and some whiskey and being like, you know what? People want to hear this.
They do.
People want to hear about what two white blokes think.
Yeah.
So blokes in their 30s.
Yeah.
That's the voice that's not getting heard.
We're the voice of the people.
Ooh, yeah. So, what better to chat about, I think, than like aging blokes getting into TikTok? And is it really the place for us? And should we just give up?
Right. So the thing that I found interesting about TikTok is that, and purely from the point of view of like a consumer, like a content consumer, is I look at that and I really loved Vine.
Yeah.
But I would never be the kind of person that had something that Vine wanted to see that was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just when it comes to content in general, like I'm definitely much more of a Instagram centric person who'll share things that interest me, but not creating content.
That makes sense. You're in the basic demographic of what Instagram is.
Yeah, that's it. I want to share things, but I TikTok and Vine and those sort of things really are a pursuit of creation, something that you can give to people, and you are a creator as opposed to a sharer.
Yeah, good one.
Yeah. The thing that I found interesting about TikTok, there's a guy, his name is, I think it's Fernando Fret, and he's been doing the Cartman covers.
That guy, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So he did the one In the End by Linkin Park, and he did it with the Cartman voice, and you watch that video and you go, oh, that's really funny, I like that. I wonder if he's got any other ones, and you go to his page, and his TikTok profile is every single video is just a different song that he's done that effect over. And the thing that I found interesting about that is that you don't have to watch all of them. You probably go, that's really boring. That's a lot of things to watch. But
because you roll that out on Instagram as a part of a feed that you're going to cop every day. That's annoying.
People are going to go back to it and blah, blah. Whereas the discovery nature of TikTok makes so much sense, you know?
Yeah, because you may only cop that one.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, I really like that. But you don't even have to get involved with, you don't even have to go and like his profile or anything like that.
The hydraulic press guy.
Oh, yeah.
Same sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
You're not going to watch 50 videos of hydraulic press stuff, but you might watch 10.
Some people do, because some people are right into ASMR. I'm not. But that might just be like soul satisfying for those people.
Oh, yeah,
Just watch the whole lot.
Have an endless feed of that, for sure.
Maybe.
What do you think of it? You've been posting a bit.
Yeah. Okay. So 2 thoughts. One, I don't think I'm necessarily very creative or funny.
Right.
And I think, I think I have a bit of imposter syndrome about it. I'm like, no one wants to see what I got to say here. But I'm sure they do. Good.
That was my instinct with what we're doing at the moment, but it's totally different discipline for sure.
Agreed.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like 15 seconds versus 45 minutes.
Yeah. How interesting can you be so interesting in 15 seconds that people actually stop scrolling and watch it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Doug, as someone who's gone semi-viral on TikTok,
What are your numbers now, mate?
It died on the Vine. So I got to last I checked, it was 4,155 views, right? And all it was just like a photo from each of the last 5 years of my weight loss and fitness journey, right? And it was just like me just getting progressively smaller. Which is, I'm still a reasonably big guy, but it's nice to sometimes just see some progress, right?
Yeah. Well, when you stack them up, it's like Benjamin Button, right? As you just keep,
Yeah, exactly. Benjamin Button. But, it made me go, okay, that's something that people might be interested in. That's what TikTok saw and went, okay, people can see there's a narrative in this 15 seconds of this person started weightlifting, training, and some cardio. And that's their goal. People are gonna identify with that and get on board with it. And they rolled it out a couple of times, obviously, like we've talked about this. That sort of it runs it out, sees if anyone likes it. If it doesn't go nuts straight away, they'll let it sit for a bit and then they'll roll it out again, and give it another shot.
Exactly, because they're in the business of content as well, right? So if you've made something and it didn't cost them anything for you to make it, they're going to push it out a few times and see what happens because it's better for them.
Yeah, so, I saw exactly that happen with that video, whereby I think it was sitting at 300 or 400 about 24 hours after I'd posted it.
Yeah.
And then I went to bed that night and I woke up the next morning and had 1,800.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, here we go.
Yeah, it's like Jack and the Beanstalk. Oh. Overnight sensation.
Yeah. I don't know about that. But, I was like, it's not a huge thing, but I saw how it would happen and could happen very, very quickly. You hear about you see someone do a story time where they tell something, absolutely wild.
Yeah.
And then by the time part 2 comes around, by the time they go to record that part 2 of story time, whatever they say, they're like, oh, you guys really love that last one. I've got 2.7 million.
Yeah.
And then, people are hanging on part 2.
Something I found is that I'll have in my feed, and obviously there's a certain sort of sorting that goes on with the TikTok algorithm and stuff. In that I'll get part 2 of a 4-part thing where someone's like, "Hey, we bought this container with a lock on it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, one of those things. We're going to see what's inside.
Yeah.
And part 2 is them actually getting it to where they're going to take it or whatever. You know, the first one's them picking it up. Second one, them getting it to their place. The third one's them breaking it open. The fourth one is what's in it.
Yeah.
And I'll see part 2. But then I'll click on their profile to go and have a look at it.
And it says just watched or whatever.
It'll be 15, 20 videos down the thing, right? And so that's 2 weeks ago that they posted that. But it's been spat out again, and then I've gone to find it, and I'm like, well, I'm expecting part 3 to roll on after it, and it doesn't.
No,
so it
sometimes makes me go in 5 videos later again.
It makes me go into their profile and find it and everything. And
it's clever.
They got me on the hook, bro. They got me on the hook.
It's very, very clever,
Yeah.
But also, you know, you're not going to catch me out there doing, you know, TikTok dances, you know? You're not going to catch me doing that.
It started with Musical.ly, right? And it was all about lip syncing and dancing and blah, blah, blah. And there's still a lot of that there. But like a lot of my favorite videos, and I think videos that do really well, are people that can do real good, like one person playing a couple of different characters, quick edits, you know, the real like...
like replying to each other.
Yeah.
Those are great.
The YouTube poop of 10 years ago is now TikTok.
I don't see. This is what I mean. But when I say I'm not creative, I don't have that in me.
Yeah.
I think you've almost got to be like a sketch writer.
Oh, you definitely do. And a lot of these guys as well now, like I really like stand-up comedy, but, you know, obviously listen to a lot of podcasts. And you should too. And I really like listening to podcasts and stuff, but there's a lot of people now that have podcasts and are doing stand-up comedy and everything that started doing YouTube sketches.
Yeah, right.
And like 30-second, like there used to be the subreddit YouTube Haiku, and the idea was it was videos under 30 seconds. Right. And so there was Gus Johnson was a guy on YouTube who's in his mid-20s now, who when he was in college, he just wanted to do YouTube stuff, and he found that it was similar to TikTok. You got a really good response rate if you made a 30-second video on YouTube and posted it to that subreddit.
Yeah.
And so he was addicted to what is a 30-second sketch.
He was searching for that high.
Yeah, to get it out there and to do it. And then now, you know, they've got a whole bunch of stuff off the back of that. But it's funny that it used to be that people went out and stand-up was the thing you did to cut your teeth to get into other stuff.
Gotcha.
And now it's to get into TV shows and sketch writing.
Yep.
Now you do sketch writing and uploading videos to get you into stand-up.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's a whole different thing.
It's really interesting, man. Like, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you're 35, right?
No, bro.
Oh, how much younger than me are you?
Dude, I'm 30.
Oh, shit. My bad.
I'm 31 this year. I'll give you that.
Okay. So, well, I mean, that illustrates it even more so because the difference in generation between you and me, like I'm 38, right?
Yeah.
So 7 years difference there. The difference in generation, like, in that, like, you know way more about like YouTubers, Vine, all that sort of stuff. That missed me a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, and it's just because I was like a touch older and 7 years older. Like, I don't know if you necessarily call that a touch older, but
I got friends that are 6 years younger than me, and we still share a lot of stuff and like, you know, a lot of common sort of things growing up and stuff. And like, but the weird thing is that you were as the internet was rising, and they were after the internet had risen.
Totally.
And so that changes a lot.
I'm actually in a mini generation, in between X and Y.
Right.
Sorry, X and millennial.
Millennial, yeah, you're a Zennial.
I'm a Zennial, yeah, correct. Because it's the last generation that knew time before the internet. Or grew up as a child before the internet.
Yeah.
But is also a digital, like is a digital native.
Yes.
And has that experience with like technology and the internet and all of that sort of stuff.
Right, yeah.
But yeah, like, so you would actually be like, when did you get your first modem? Let's say that.
When I was maybe 9 or 10, we got our dial-up modem.
Yep.
I lived about half an hour outside of town, and so we kept that dial-up modem for far too long.
Far longer than you needed to, yeah.
Way too long.
Yeah.
So I got to see everyone else have broadband and better operating systems and stuff like that, and I got stuck with Windows 95 and 56, kilobits or whatever like that for 10 years.
So my first one was at 15.
Right.
And it was a 33.6.
Right.
Modem. Yeah. And like I used to play Warcraft 2 against my friends. You could do direct, like 1v1 on Warcraft 2.
I was listening to a podcast with the guys from Tripod, musical comedy guys.
Great. I love Tripod. So clever.
Amazing dudes.
Yeah.
The thing they were saying was they were playing, it wasn't Age of Empires, but it was Command and Conquer or something like that, right? And they said that, you got so used to playing it and you were playing it against like NPCs if you were playing it online or whatever. And then one of them said the day that they were playing against like their friends and other people, and they had a guy on their server who had spent all of this time fortifying and like just put all these battlements and stuff, and they went to fight him and he was doing sneaky conniving shit to beat them. And when you play against an NPC, the NPC was just like, stay away, shoot arrows, throw fire. And he was doing stuff like luring them in really close and then bombing them all with fire or whatever. And doing all this like hacking stuff. And they were like, I'm playing against a human. Like to be me in a room and the computer is scorning me, but it's actually someone at their computer scorning me. He said it was a whole new feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. There's this like all of a sudden you're just like, it's Skynet.
I mean, we're definitely not there yet, man. AI is actually really dumb. Yeah. Like as intelligent as everything seems these days.
Yeah.
Like I was an IT teacher. I don't know if you know that about me.
Right.
But like I taught AI and like the basics of like the principles of how like AI would be.
Was that a Haley Joel Osment movie?
Yeah, there was. Artificial Intelligence, featuring a Ministry song. There's a band. There's a Ministry themselves are in the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting cameo.
Yeah, there you go. They're playing at there's a scene where like all the humans like they're like got to basically like not seen it.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh, you've not seen it.
I'll add that to the list. We'll talk about it next week.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do a like dual watch and we'll come back and report on it.
I like it. Yeah, we need to set each other some like a shopping list of movies and stuff.
AI, it's a beautiful movie actually.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Bicentennial Man,
Great movie.
I don't really need to see any other movies now.
R.I.P. Robin
Cried
Williams.
like a little girl.
Yeah.
Oh, mate.
Oh, prepare to cry at the end of this one, man. Like if... Yeah.
Right.
For a very different reason, but it's...
Okay.
Like,
all right.
Yeah.
Well... AI though about it being dumb. There's actually an AI artist at the moment who is like the equivalent of like Little Xan or something like that. And there's an avatar for him, and it like most AI does, listens to a whole bunch of other songs and then makes up its own with the data that it's got and is releasing stuff on YouTube and everything of its own accord. The AI is writing, producing, and releasing songs at the moment. I can't remember the name, but because the AI is set up to, it's programmed to write the song, produce the song, post the song. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
There's also the death metal, speaking of the faction, and or heavy shit. There's also AI death metal. It's called Databots, and it's a guy who's got a server full of death metal, and it is live streaming constantly for the last like 2 years. It has been live streaming a constant stream of its own generated death metal. It sounds kind of garbled and crazy, but if you listen to a 30-second snippet of it and no one told you, you might not notice.
Is it like the death metal version of like lo-fi hip-hop beats?
Kind of, yeah. Imagine if it was like Cannibal Corpse, but with like Converge production.
Jesus.
Yeah.
I did see a thing recently where it was like AI did a version of an Eminem song.
Right.
Did a version of the 8 Mile
song. Yes. Yeah.
For 2021.
Yep.
Like it was, it was talking about like taking Xanax and all
changed
sorts of stuff.
all of the keywords.
Yeah.
It's a whole other thing.
Nuts. It's pretty nuts. But yeah, anyway, maybe AI is not so dumb, but it was definitely like, this is the thing, like computers at the end of the day, even despite it, like best efforts of like AI in trying to think for itself, still requires inputs.
It's only as good as the person feeding it information, as the information you give it.
Yeah, correct. Yeah. And then the day that it becomes self-actualizing, it'll be Skynet Day. So,
well, I'm really upset actually that the Terminator movies are available on the internet.
So I can go and watch them.
Now we've committed them to the internet. They're gettable. If they'd all just stayed like DVD copies or whatever like that, then
offline.
We're essentially putting the how-to guide up for the AI.
Well, I mean, if you go back to the 80s.
Yeah, I'd love to. By the way,
yeah, for real.
I would love to.
Did you ever see the movies
Neon Jocks and everything?
Short Circuit.
No, I haven't. I feel like I've seen the poster.
These are kids flicks, right?
Right.
And there's a robot called Johnny Five that this kid makes, and he gets hit by lightning.
Right.
And like the robot gets hit by lightning, he becomes self-aware, becomes sentient and self-aware, and he's like, Johnny Five is alive, and he like basically like and something goes wrong with him, and like he's just like he has this like absolute need to like consume content.
Right.
So like he's just like reading books and that's what you don't want. You don't want the AI being like, I must read all the content. Yep. I must know everything because then I'll be like the ultimate power, You don't want AI doing that.
Or there's the other flip side of putting the blinders on them. You're just feeding the specific information you want them to see, and then somehow the blinders coming off and being like, what's all this other information you've been withholding from me?
Well, I mean, you saw what happened in Age of Ultron. Ultron was like discovered war and what man does to man, and he's like, oh, well, I'm not going to allow you to do that anymore. You guys are the cancer of.
You must be eliminated.
Yeah, man, we watch too much science fiction, I think.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's what else are we going to watch? I'm not out here watching like Justin Bieber's new documentary or whatever like that. I don't got no interest.
Does he have one?
He doesn't have a new one now, but you know what I mean. Like there's stuff that comes out in movies where you go, should that really be in a movie theater? I think I'm going to go and watch the re-release of Terminator instead. So yeah,
I mean, if given the you can watch only one film, and this is going to be semi-controversial because. Like, obviously, Star Wars means so much to me.
Yep.
But, I tell you what, Terminator 2, Judgment Day would be up there.
Yep.
If that was, the only film I could ever watch again, Jesus Christ, it'd be close.
Die Hard 3 with a vengeance.
With a vengeance?
Yes, brother.
Really?
Yes, because...
I love that flick.
Because what you've got there, right, is you've got... two of the guys from Pulp Fiction, for a start, right. Samuel L. Jackson and Bruce Willis, pretty good chemistry.
Jeremy Irons,
is in that as well. You've got an amazing director,
John McTiernan
nailed the first Die Hard, the second Die Hard, mixed reviews, third Die Hard, straight back on it. Like that guy just doesn't miss.
Correct me if I'm wrong. John McTiernan did Predator, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
oh god, there's another one that'd be up there for me.
Crazy director, crazy cast, like the story.
Premise is nuts.
It's just.
Do you know what I was thinking about Die Hard with a Vengeance today?
Right.
Because I was actually I was actually thinking about it in terms of okay, here's how I got to it. Right. My business partner called me an asshole.
Right.
And I went. Yeah, you nailed it. I am an asshole. And it reminded me of the scene where Bruce Willis says to Jeremy Irons, he goes your brother was an asshole.
Yeah.
And he goes, you're right. He was an asshole. you got his number. And then it got me thinking about that that
was a cracking impression, by the way. You did that very well.
Thank you.
You were waiting for that.
I was.
Yeah.
And then
you've been practicing that in the mirror.
Then it got the Hans Gruber, the flash of Hans Gruber falling from from Nakatomi Towers, and then it got me thinking about the whole heist, the whole point of the heist in With a Vengeance, and I went, hang on, was it all just to get vengeance on Bruce Willis on? John McClane? And then I was like, no, it wasn't. Because there's a line where Jeremy Irons goes, life has its little bonuses.
Right.
You know,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
because someone asked him, like, oh, it might even be Sam Jackson, goes like, what? You going to do this to get revenge on John McClane? That has nothing to do with me. It's some white people shit.
Yeah.
And he's like, life has its little bonuses. And I was like, that's, you know, there you go. There's a little window into my brain.
I could go down this rabbit hole forever, but I won't.
Yeah.
But if you think about the feasibility of it, you're not going to be able to get that many people together just to go and take down some New York cop.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So for
but
all
then
we
there's
know,
a whole twist again of like they do the heist and whatever, and then
spoilers, Tim.
Oh, hang on. It came out in 1995.
This movie is perfect. I don't want it ruined for anybody
Yeah,
ever.
fair enough.
No. Go for it.
Yeah, of like where he messes around everyone else in his crew as well and steals the gold as well.
But this is what I'm saying though, is that that character is great because not only is he getting what he wants by subverting, you know, like making the mission and getting all these people rallied around and, you know, tomorrow we choose which country to buy. Yeah. You know, like there's all
gullibility of the New York Police Department.
Yeah, see, you remember, it's a great movie.
Man, I can quote that movie all day long.
But the thing about it is that one way or another, even no matter how elaborate it has to be, he's going to get his revenge. He's very elaborate revenge, and he's also going to do that while pulling off this very elaborate heist. But any way you cut it, that was all about that little bonus for him.
Yeah,
because if he couldn't have the little bonus, he probably wouldn't have done it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Oh, man, what a flick.
I'm going to go home and watch that right now.
Yeah, I only watched it not that long ago.
It's my rainy day movie. It's my like I'm at home sick movie or whatever like that, and I'll put it on and like
I love as well. Yeah,
I think
I love as well. It's 1995. It obviously was shot on film rather than digitally because it wasn't a thing, but it shows. It's grainy. That film is grainy.
Yes.
And let me tell you, Doug, one of the greatest days I ever had at high school was the day that the water jug problem came up in maths. It was on a test.
It was
on a test, and I'm like, I got this one.
Yes.
I saw them do it.
Yeah. Samuel L. Jackson taught me this.
Yeah. But the funny thing is like you really have to slow it down and watch it little bit by little bit because they say it very, very quickly on how to solve it.
Yeah.
They're like, giving you exactly 3 gallons, and then this one into the 5 gallon, and then giving you exactly 4 gallons. And you're like, hang on, what was that again? Like, but it works.
Can I say I've watched that movie 30 times?
Yep.
Right? If you handed me those 2 jugs right now, I wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, no.
I have watched that movie so many, and every time I go, oh, there's this bit coming up. Yeah. How do you do that again? Oh, of course, that makes so much sense. And the next day, I would not be able to do it. It's the only thing I don't remember.
Let me tell you, I was the hero of my friends that day because I was like, I'll show you how to solve this problem.
Yeah. And see, if there'd have been TikTok, you could have taken a little video and like tagged Sam Jackson, or maybe, I don't imagine he's on TikTok, but then shared it to your Instagram and then tagged Sam Jackson in it. Oh, and then been like, thank you, Mr. Carver.
Yeah, Zeus Carver.
Yeah. Mm.
That might be enough, Doug, I think. I mean, do we feel like that's enough? We've given people enough to be like, you know, smash that subscribe button. Follow us for the next one. Yeah, I did it.
Tim, you're hurting me. Well, I mean, I think we said we were going to do 20 minutes, and it's definitely been, and we've still got to go to gym 45, after this. Yeah, because we're doing this before we go to gym.
Yeah,
and so we're going to go and do a leg day now and punish ourselves.
Oh,
yeah.
I forgot about that.
You forgot it was leg day.
Damn.
So we probably should wrap it up, but also, like, you know, anything that puts off a leg day is okay with me.
For real. Oh, thanks, Dougie.
Yeah, thank you.
Cheers.
Till next time. We did it.
How long did we... That was an hour, bro.
Yeah, that's a full hour.